Hello, my name's Eric. I work at Orchard's Family Success Center as the Volunteer and Community Partnership Coordinator. I've been making videos that help do a little bit of STEM in your life, keeping you busy during the pandemic, but hopefully just a good time in general so we can continue doing them, bring in some experts who also can do projects once we get back to in-person workshops. But this week's workshop is Physics Fun with Marshmallows. So this is what you got. You got Tupperware filled with mini marshmallows and toothpicks. There's a bunch of different things you can do, so regardless of the age of your child or the ability that you feel comfortable with guiding them, you can do different things. I'm going to go over the four different steps or levels that we're going to call them. So level one would be just making basic shapes, triangle, square, rectangle, to help visualize them and to let them build it because it's just more fun to learn shapes that way and even talk about lengths and it's two toothpicks wide and one toothpick long type of thing you can use. The next step would be building a complex two-dimensional shape, like building a house or building a face or trying to build a dinosaur or a car or anything that your imagination gets you excited about. And it will challenge you because you can't really bend a toothpick. They're one way. But if you get creative, you might be able to simulate a circle, or you might be able to do something to make it still look like a car without having a rounded piece. The third level would be building a three-dimensional object, which would take some more physics elements involved. So for that, you'd have to build maybe a house. But as you know, you can't just build a bunch of sides and hope it stays up. You have to support the bottom, reinforce the sides if it's too wobbly, make sure it's level, make sure it's even, that type of stuff. And then the fourth level would be what a lot of high schoolers do in their physics classes, which would be build a bridge, which would be really difficult. I'm not going to lie. I've done it a few times and it always is difficult. Um, but it will test you on thinking through it, thinking on how things are supported and how structures are made and how they're structurally sound. And I'll go into that a little bit later and I'll add some links below. That way you can have some references to figure out how to do it in case you're struggling while you're trying to teach somebody else how to do it. Or if you're just curious, because honestly, I think it's kind of cool. So sit tight, relax, enjoy yourself. There'll be timestamps below also. That way you can pick which level you want to do. Level 1, which is the shapes. Level 2, which is a little complex 2D shapes. Level 3, building a 3D shape. And then level 4, building something such as a bridge. This is going to be level 1, making basic two-dimensional shapes. First thing you want to do is empty out your container and separate the toothpicks and the marshmallows. And as any child should, or any adult should, make sure you taste test a marshmallow to make sure they're good. But as you do that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to take these pieces, the toothpicks, and you're going to take a marshmallow and you're going to put the marshmallow on the end of the toothpick like that. And then you're going to take another one and put it on the other side. And this would be one of your sides for whatever shape. Let's say we're going to make a triangle first. So this is what we have. Then you would take the toothpick and put it in that one. And you're using the marshmallows to connect the sides and to connect the toothpicks. That way they fit nice and they're stable. And there you would have a triangle. And you can do this with all kinds of shapes, and you can do it with bigger shapes too, because sometimes it gets more fun, even with the simple ones. So let's say we're making a rectangle. Now, a square is even on all sides, but a rectangle, the top and the bottom are equal, and then the sides are equal, but they're different lengths. So you'd have to maybe do 2 lengths for the top and the bottom of the rectangle, but only do 1 length for the sides. Now I do suggest for anything that's more complicated than a few toothpicks that you lay it down while you're doing it. That way you don't break it. Because I've broken a few of these trying to test it and it can be very frustrating. So let's do that. And then poke it in right there. And then we take the next piece and we poke it in. And we poke it in. the most important one to connect them both. Boom. So there you go. That's what you could do. You help build them. You can explain the lengths of the sides, how many points it has. You can even encourage your child to build something after they see it. Or if you have a picture or something you can draw as an example, to encourage them to try to make it themselves. Because again, toothpicks, they're pretty safe. They're a little pointy, yeah, of course, but no one's probably going to hurt themselves if they're gently pushing through. It's not like a knife. You might get a little ouchy and go, oh, I got a boo-boo, but nothing too bad. And it's quick. This whole demo, making 3 shapes while also explaining what was going on, this has been less than 3 minutes, and we've already have a bunch of shapes. Oh, let me finish this square real quick. Boom. So yeah, so then you could even talk about how many squares it takes to make a rectangle. You could do a whole bunch of things. It's really up to you and how creative you want to get and what you want to teach your children or what they want to learn. Another fun thing you could do is to grab different objects in the room. Here, I'll grab one just nearby and say, what kind of shape is this? How could we make this out of toothpicks and marshmallows? Or you could always say, oh, we already did that. See, it's kind of the same. They're both rectangles. But that's up to you again. So you do what works for you and what is fun for you and your family. Whether that be trying to recreate different shapes that you see around you, trying to figure out how to make them without any help, maybe making a bunch of them and identifying them. It's really based off of what level your child is at and what they feel comfortable doing. Now we're on to level 2, which will be making complex 2-dimensional shapes. Now, in the last example, I had 3 different shapes that I made. I used a rectangle, a square, and a triangle. And something popped up to me when I was looking at the video that if you put the square and the triangle together, it kind of looks like a house already. Let me adjust that one for you so you can see it. Like, yeah, it already kind of looks like a house. But we could probably do better with making a house. So I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to try to make a house as one shape. Instead of combining 2, we're going to use the same toothpicks and the same marshmallows and make that shape with multiple shapes. So we're going to make our square at the bottom, because that would be the house, it would be the foundation and the walls. And then here you can decide if you want to add the roof and the ceiling or just add the roof. I'm going to add the ceiling because I think it helps stabilize the shape, and I also think in my mind that that is a part of it. It's not just a roof. So we take that and then we're going to add the triangle to the top. Oh boy, sometimes these toothpicks are hard to grab. There we go. And we have another house. So we've got 2 houses. And I made another one earlier just to go over the different shapes. So see, the 2 on the right, so this one and this one, are very similar to this, except you see how they've got double marshmallows here because you can separate them. So sometimes you can even, to start this type of project, if you've made certain shapes, you can combine the simple shapes from step 1 to start thinking about step 2, making complex 2-dimensional shapes. Or if you don't have to do that step, you can start from scratch and just start building. Now, a house is a very easy example, but you could look at things around in your environment. You could look at things that you really like. I did mention fire trucks or race cars. Even something like this tape dispenser could be really cool to make. Let me slide these away for a second. Because you figure when you look at the tape dispenser, it has a bottom and then it has an angled part. This would be the curve. We do an angle. And then it could come in. Let me take this back. Then it would go up. And we could make it like this. It's not perfect, but you know, it doesn't have to be because we don't have rounded edges. We don't have specialty pieces. We've got flat lengths for a toothpick, and we've got connectors as a marshmallow. And if you put it all together, you will have something that looks similar to a tape dispenser. And I think it would be the best 2D representation you could do with flat sides and straight sides. Now, you could, of course, draw it and have the complex shape and the rounded edges, but we're not worried about rounded edges today. We're just trying to make the shape as best we can. And I'm showing you this one because it's kind of hard. This one is a difficult one, and it's not something that you need to be too hard on yourself if it's not perfect, because I think this is a great representation of a 2D version of that. And I think if a child was to make a shape like that, you can see what they're thinking. They're seeing the bottom flat part, they made it. They're seeing the curve, they made it. They're seeing the flat line here where the tape goes, they made that. The part that goes up, it goes over, it goes down, and it angles again here. And they've done all of those things. Now they might even take it a step farther, and maybe they don't see this connection right here. Maybe they just see it connecting like this in their mind because it curves. So it's two curves, the line down here, trying to make it straight. And that would also be okay too. There's not one perfect way of doing shapes. I would encourage you that whoever you're working with, you don't diminish what they're doing or you don't tell them they're doing it wrong. You try to see how they're thinking, and then you can show them another way to think. So if they make this shape and you are expecting them to add that other portion right here and right here, you could say, I see what you're doing. Oh, so this part is right here and this part's right here. That's a really fun way to look at it, and that's a good way to see it. I see the way your mind is trying to make that shape. Let me show you the way I would make it. And then you can explain to them, you would do what we did earlier and say, well, I would see it more like a flat top and a corner right there, and then the long part right here. And then you could go over how the two shapes look similar and different. And you could even talk about how, because it's not rounded and every piece is a straight line, that it's difficult to make curved portions out of these, but it's still fun to try and it's still fun to work your mind and think that way. So we just finished all of this, all of the two-dimensional shapes. And I think it's time we move on to the three-dimensional shapes. Step 3, or level 3 as we were calling it earlier, would be making a three-dimensional shape. Now, three-dimensional shapes are a little more difficult because you have to have supports in them to keep them from toppling over. And I'll explain that a little bit as we go. But I will be honest with you, sometimes my explanations on three-dimensional shapes and the reasons they work and the supports and all that stuff, I mess up the vocab. So like I said before, I'm going to add in a few links. That way you can learn more about the structures and you can read them together and go over it. But here's an example of how you'd make a house. And if I fail or if I have any stumbling blocks, I'm going to keep recording because I want you to see the whole process. So I'm going to try to do what I did before and start with just the floor. Now, in our last example, the house, the floor was just right here. But now, because it's 3D, I need this whole square to be the floor. So let's add the floor. If you notice, something I'm trying to do to help myself is I'm trying to keep the marshmallows on the table while I put the toothpicks in so they don't wibble wobble or anything like that. Now we have the floor and I need to start building the walls. So I'm going to just put one here. And I'm going to try to put these as deep as I can in the middle. That way they stay up. Hopefully they have some good support. And if I think they're having any trouble, you might see me do this a few times, I'm going to twist it a little to help really get it in there. Now, I'm not going to do this one with supports at first. I want to see if it can work without supports. It might, because it's not too difficult of a shape. But we will see what happens when I try to make these walls connect and try to put the roof on. There we go. All right, so far so good. Here, I'll show you another angle. If you see already, though, it's twisting a little and it's falling over. So I'm just going to keep going and see if I can save this. Because sometimes, and this happens with adults too, and even people who are engineers, they learn the basics and they learn the things they need to know, but while they start building something, they come up with issues or surprises that they didn't expect. And we're not experts, so we're going to run into some surprises, and that's okay. So let's rotate and figure out what we can do to help these drooping walls. Oh, dropped it. So I'm going to connect these walls together. And I'm going to hold this one because I'm afraid it's going to fall. Oh, it's good. Cool. And then we're going to make a square again. Top. Ooh, so far so good. And the cool thing about this project with making a three-dimensional shape, if this is the first time you or your child has really worked with three-dimensional shapes that just do the outside lines like a drawing would do, you can see that the three-dimensional shape is just made up of a bunch of two-dimensional shapes connected together in different planes, so the X, the Y, and the Z, which is really cool, especially if you've never made that connection. I've seen some kids get really excited when they see these things. Now, I could try to build the roof right now, but like I said, it started to lean and I got worried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can make some supports. And supports can either be you add in another level of toothpicks into it to help redefine it. But with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can add one in the middle that can connect to the other ones. And again, I'm not an expert, so trying to figure out how to do a support, I don't have a foolproof plan. I'm just trying to figure out as I go, because I think that's more fun when you try to discover it as best you can while you go. Does it fit? Ooh, it doesn't fit. So that's going to change my plan a little. And with this support then, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to attach it to the other ones. And the cool thing about these marshmallows is as you work, you can bend a little and move the marshmallows around. Oh no, this isn't working as well as I had hoped. My demo went much better, but that's all right. We will keep going and figure out how we can try to salvage this house before it falls down. Let's see, that works. What I was hoping to do is connect the top in a way that it would all fit. Let me see if I can still do that. I don't think I'll be able to. That is a shame. It's just too far. You know what I'm discovering? I think the set of toothpicks I had were more the same length, and they went into the marshmallow the same amount because I was more meticulous, whereas this time I'm not. So I'm just going to take these off, and I'm going to try to build the top and see what happens. But I have an idea in case the top starts to fall. And I'm sure you might be able to see it already, which I could put a toothpick there to hold it up. So we'll see how this goes. Wow. So all that worry was for nothing because it worked out fine. Now, it's not totally even, it's not perfect, but again, I'm a big fan of it not having to be perfect. We wanted to build a house, and we built the house. We put a little pyramid on the bottom to help support it so it wouldn't wibble wobble, And it kind of worked actually, which was cool. Now what I'm going to do, just to see, because I'm curious now, is I'm going to take this out to see if it will hold. And I think it's going to be okay. I think I preemptively got worried. Yeah, see? It worked just fine. Now the bigger the structure you make, the three-dimensional shape you make, the more support you're probably going to need, just as a tip. So if you wanted to go 3 levels high in toothpicks, you'd probably need to have more out on the sides to support it. And it might even look something just like this, like you would put one there. And you would even be able to connect them together by pushing this through and pushing it here. Oh boy, there we go. You could keep building, and you would build it on this side too to help reinforce the side so it doesn't fall over. If you really wanted to get fancy with it, which you're welcome to at home, if you have scissors, you could cut these in half, or if you have any sort of cutting tool that an adult can use, you can cut these to the right length you want to make more accurate shapes. But I'm not doing any of that. I think this is just fine and fun as it is. But I'm going to pause it right now so we can look at what it would be to try to start building a bridge or a three-dimensional, like, complex object. This is phase 4, level 4, trying to make a complex three-dimensional shape such as a bridge. Now, I already started from phase 3. I built a little house structure, as you can see, and I started to even build a support beam to the side to reinforce the edges. And I thought that this would be a good place for me to start explaining how to do a bridge. Because we can do a small version bridge here, because I'm not running out of marshmallows, but I don't want this to take too much longer. And, oh no, it started to move a little. Oh boy. And that's the beauty of working with these marshmallows and these toothpicks. Because if you see something like this, like how it's a little lopsided, you can try to reinforce that side or give support beams or try to strengthen it in some way. Because these marshmallows, as you know, they're springy when you squeeze them. So when you put a toothpick into it, it goes in, but over time that marshmallow is going to move a little bit. So it's going to be a little difficult, but that's all right. It's allowed to be a little difficult, especially before they get stale. Now, if you are operating with some stale marshmallows, you might be able to do some cooler things off the bat. But what I'm going to be doing as an example, assuming I can get it together, oh boy. I'm going to use this house that I built and try to use this as my bridge. Because I'm just adding some supports and some sides. That way I can try to hang it between 2 objects, whether they're books, whether they're little shelves. I've got 2 marker containers that I'm going to be using to try it, but we'll see how that goes in a second. So as you can see, I reinforced the side, and now I'm going to put a piece here as an end. Now, because I'm a little insecure that I don't think it's going to work just like this, I'm going to reinforce it already and do another one right here to help give it some more structural strength. All right, so we did it on this side. Now I'm going to try to do it on this side. And again, this is just a simple example of a bridge. You could do a complex one. You could have it 2 toothpicks long, 3 toothpicks lengths long. You could have it 3 high. You could do all kinds of things. And actually, I'm going to show you when this is closer to being finished, that you could even flip this one upside down and use it as a bridge and see what it would look like as that, and why maybe that works with the links that I provide. Now, let's see, can I get this in there? So if you're following along, this is a pretty good way to just try it out. I don't think this is a terrible way to try. If you have another idea off the bat right away, I say go for it. Always try your ideas. Always test your hypotheses, as we like to call them, because I don't think there's a wrong way to do this. I think there is a right way to do it, which is just trying to figure out how to do it. Because again, we're not experts. We don't know everything there is to know about engineering or structural integrity or any of that stuff. And let's be honest, we're playing with toothpicks and marshmallows, which is fun. I'm not knocking that. But this is not us trying to build a house for somebody. This is not us trying to find a structure we're going to live in or we're going to have people drive over every day. This is just a small example of how you can start thinking about the concepts to build a bridge or to build a house or what it even looks like. And again, I said this in the beginning, this is something a lot of high school students do. So if you're not in high school yet and you're struggling with this, that's okay. A lot of high school students struggle with these concepts while they're learning it. And truth be told, some college students I know would struggle. And I'm an adult, and sometimes I forget these things I've learned, and I struggle. So here's my idea of a bridge. It's just a basic little bridge. I have a center that's higher up because I wanted some strength in the middle. And then I have the bridge portion. You can see the little steps. And I actually put these ones in between to help keep it the shape I want it to. Because if I don't have these pieces here, these can go all different directions. Maybe it would go this way, and it would go that way, and then it won't be as strong. But these help keep it the shape we want it to be. And these help keep this top the way we want it to be. So I'm going to grab my two little marker containers and I'm going to slide my extra pieces over. I'm going to see if this works as a bridge. Wow, cool. And I'm going to put something on it to see if it breaks it when I add it. Oh, that doesn't fit. I thought that would. Let's do this. This is kind of heavy, so maybe... Oh, yep, it's breaking it. It's breaking it. Oh, because it's not strong enough to handle the weight of these fasteners. But that's okay, because we have the bridge and it works. And you know what you could do too? Which some bridges do, and you've probably noticed this. The top's flat, but when you look underneath it, they have all these different joints on the bottom that connect together to help keep it the shape you want. So I could, let's see if I can make this happen without knocking it over. Oops. I don't know if I can do it. We'll see. Oh, there we go. So me holding it, the bottom of it is keeping it center and secure, while the top just has to lay flat against it. And this is just, again, a small example of what you could do. There are all kinds of really wild, crazy projects. When I did this in high school, I think it was my senior year in high school, and I had people who were making it 4 or 5 toothpicks high, and they were doing all kinds of crazy, cool things to make sure that it could hold as much weight as possible. And we don't need to do any of that here. We're just trying to learn some basic ideas and to think about the way you would need to lay it out, how the marshmallows help keep the shape the way we want it to, how these toothpicks on the side with the marshmallows help reinforce the shape we already have to keep it sturdy. Because without these pieces, these ones, this center will wiggle wobble and could sometimes break. And then we could even add more to it, and we could go out this way too, and we could add another support here to keep it from moving in this direction, because we stopped it from moving left and right, but if we wanted to go forward backwards, we would need to support it in this way. And it can keep going from there. That's why sometimes when you see people build these types of projects, they end up kind of looking like a pyramid, because triangles are pretty safe. Pyramids are pretty good shapes to help reinforce and be sturdy. But this is my bridge that I'm doing today, and I'm proud of it. And I hope that if you're trying to do your bridge, that whatever you come up with, you're proud too. Because the goal is not to figure out how to do it and do it perfectly. The goal is to learn. So if you made a mistake, if you struggled with anything, that's okay. Try to figure out what the issue was, and then try to figure out a solution for it and test out that solution. Because doing that is just as important as doing it right the first time. I'd say it's more important to be able to fix your mistakes and to keep doing better and to learn than it is to do it right every time. because doing it right, you don't learn anything. You're doing the things you already know. But testing yourself and trying to do new things will cause you to think more and to grow. But there we have it. This is phase 4 or level 4, building a bridge. So that is the 4 levels of our workshop this week. So whether you did the basic 2D shapes, the complex 2D shapes, the 3D shape, or a complex 3D shape such as building a bridge, I hope that it was good. I hope that it was fun. Hopefully you learned a little bit, you challenged yourself a little bit. And like I said, if you want to learn more, I'm going to have some links below to other resources for you to learn a little bit more about each of those levels and to give you vocab words to use if you are unsure of them yourself or your kids start asking questions that you don't have answers to, which is always a good sign. The fact that they are asking questions gives them an opportunity to learn, and it gives you an opportunity to learn and to teach, which is really cool. So good luck. I hope you had fun. If you have any questions, call the center, email the center, we'll be here. And next week, I think we're actually doing another project with marshmallows and hot chocolate, talking about marshmallows dissolving and what that looks like. So if you enjoy marshmallows, you're getting a back-to-back. But on behalf of Orchard's Family Success Center, have a great day, and we'll see you soon.